This is your match preview for the first installment of the 401 Derby of the 2018 season. It is Toronto FC and the Montreal Impact and the return to the Big O. Gareth Wheeler alongside Eric Giacometti. It was November of 2016. The painted lines on the field, all astray. It was the first leg of the Eastern Conference Championship, and Toronto FC inevitably lost that day 3-2 to the Montreal Impact, but to set themselves up for the incredibly memorable return leg where Toronto FC punched their ticket to their first ever MLS Cup final. Look, Eric, the Big O, not a fun place to go. Not only the conditions of the stadium, but the fact that you're playing on an inferior surface, I'm not even going to call it turf, I'm going to call it a carpet, has to weigh heavily on Toronto FC's approach come this weekend.
No, it's certainly not the easiest surface to play on. Lots of bad bounces off of it. It's almost kind of the cement underneath it really makes it tough to play on. And a guy like Victor Vasquez who's dealing with a bad back, maybe that's something that Greg Vanney takes into account. But as you mentioned, ever since that 2016 series, those two teams have gone in completely different directions, with TFC kind of staying with the course, going ahead and doing great things in the 2017 season. Montreal Impact, a lot of overhaul, a lot of change, and that's continued into 2018.
TFC had the advantage in games played between the two sides last year. 3 wins, a draw, and a loss. But TFC obviously punched on to winning an MLS Cup. Montreal Impact, they've had a change at the coaching position. Remy Gard comes into this team, sweeping changes throughout the squad as well. And they're 0-2. They haven't won a game to start the season. So what do you expect from the Montreal Impact this weekend?
Well, they're going to rely on Ignacio Piatti, as they always do. He is still a game changer, not only in the Montreal Impact team, but in all of MLS, one of the best in the league. So they're going to rely on him heavily, and they're still trying to incorporate a lot of new pieces. So interesting to see how they try to fit this together, because as you said, down 2 already with 2 losses in the season. So they're going to try to get off the schneid here at home, but so is TFC. Funny enough, it's their 6th game of the year, but just their 2nd in MLS play. They have a lot of mileage under them, but they're going to be trying to get off the mark here in MLS play and get that first win of the 2018 season.
Ignacio Piatti, he is the danger man. He has 6 goals in his last 4 regular season matches against Toronto FC, and perhaps the start will be handed to Raheem the Dream Edwards, the former Toronto FC man, local product, scored last week in a 3-2 loss. The Impact fell to the Columbus Crew, but it's going to be emotional for Raheem. He meant a lot to a lot of people at this club and vice versa.
Yeah, a local kid with a lot of promise, and still think he's going to be a really, really big player in this league, as well as for the Canadian national team. An exciting young prospect. We saw what he could do last year, even in spot starts coming off the bench, especially against the Montreal Impact, assisting that amazing Jovinko goal in the final of the Canadian Cup to send them to the CONCACAF Champions League. So we know what he can do. Scored a great goal against the Columbus Crew, so you better believe he'll be chomping at the bit to try to prove something against his former team.
The depth of Toronto FC has been so good over recent seasons, Eric, and you know that there are some players. You mentioned Vasquez dealing with a back, you have Justin Morrow dealing with a calf, Chris Mavinga with a groin, and you may want to rest other players, understanding that the international breaks ahead, so you can give players extended rest. You've been with the team, and we've seen over the course of recent times that there are players deserving of minutes, and perhaps we see players like Agar Akeche, Nico Hasler, Clint Irwin, players of that ilk really get a look this weekend to prove and give them a shot that they quite frankly deserve in the team.
Yeah, there's so much depth in this team that, even when you go down to, numbers 11 to 20 on your bench, you're really not going to see much of a drop-off in quality. There's so much talent in this team that if you bring in someone like an Akeche or a Jay Chapman into the midfield, you're still going to be able to play the type of soccer that you want to play and still dictate the game and dominate games like TFC always does.
So expect the unexpected. Who's going to be in the 11? We shall see. What formation they'll play. Montreal will have to be on their toes. Can't wait. It's the 401 Derby renewed for the 2018 season. It all gets underway 3 p.m. from the Big O. You can watch on CTV. Listen on TSN 1050.